Let me begin this video with a story. Exactly a week ago, I had a French oral exam, and a friend of mine actually told me to listen to some French music beforehand. And so during breakfast, while I was getting ready, brushing my teeth, I was listening to French music. Got in, I did pretty well, got the grade back today, I did decently. Now, I don't know if that music actually did anything, if it helped me, but it did get me thinking, if music before an exam could have such a big influence on me or on my friend here in this example, then maybe it has more of an influence than we think otherwise in life as well. Music nowadays is often violent, overly sexualized, and sometimes the music video is very graphic as well. And we all know of the importance of the subconscious mind, and it's also very hard to influence, as we've heard many times before, because it is subconscious, it is under our subconscious brain, and can only really be formed over a long period of times with habits and repeated behaviors, and ultimately it pretty much forms our identity and who we are. The best metaphor I can think of for this is imagining a volcano with lava coming out of it. That lava flows out and eventually becomes hardened rock. Now, if you imagine anytime you do anything, you say anything, you think anything, that's that lava flowing out and it becomes hardened rock. And what you keep thinking about hardens even more and more, and there'll be more on that pile of the hardened rock of the repeated behaviors. And you can't really identify what that is often at times. That's again why it is called the subconscious. And the only way you can really take control of this pile of rock and create a bigger pile of rocks, because you can't really destroy the old pile of rocks, you can just create a new pile of rocks, is to consciously control the lava that's coming out of the volcano. That may have been drastically overdone and not very necessary, but it helped me kind of understand more clearly what I'm thinking, and maybe it helped you. But moving on. If you take music specifically, I really think it shows how much of an influence, especially or mainly the lyrics, can have on our subconscious brain. I think the best way to realize what your subconscious is like is when you just sort of walk around, or maybe you even meditate, but you're not trying to steer your mind, or you're not trying to introduce any thoughts. What is your thoughts? What are you doing? What is your brain thinking about? What is your autopilot? I would define, honestly, the autopilot as your subconscious. So what is your autopilot like? What are you thinking about when you're not interacting with anyone or doing anything specifically? When you're just, let's say, walking to the grocery store while you're getting your routine shopping, something that doesn't need much thought, what are you thinking about? And I've noticed in myself, sometimes I'm thinking really weird things. Like I'm imagining weird things. And I'm not saying that's music only or music specifically. Maybe you've seen that guy on YouTube who talks about, oh yeah, YouTube Shorts users after 5 weeks or whatever. That is sometimes, honestly, the kind of thoughts or the quality of thoughts that go through my mind. And of course, I don't act like that. And I also want to point out that the guy probably is referring to, or I would interpret it as, anyone really who spends a lot of time on short form content. Often also like tendencies for violence in thoughts. I mean, it's a bit of a maybe odd thing to say, but many guys that I've spoken to have had this idea of the typical, it's a bit weird that I have to say typical when I say this, but typical school shooter saving your school scenario and things like these. And I don't think that's particularly horrible or unhealthy. It's a bit, I don't know, I haven't really thought about it much. But now, circling back to what I originally wanted to say, you may think, no, surely not, I'm not, part of this. And before I come ahead and say, oh yeah, but you are and I'm not, I'm certainly also someone who is affected by this. If you can't tell if you are. You may think you are, you may think you're not. At the end of the day, it's your subconscious, and you deciding if you're affected by this or not is your conscious mind thinking, so you can't really tell. Chances are that if you're just repeatedly listening to, especially rap music, if you're listening to just graphic lyrics, your subconscious mind is being affected by this, and you are thinking about these things sometimes. Maybe you don't notice, maybe you don't recall, but I know this personal experience, and I know it from talking to other friends of mine, so it is a fact, it is true. Another thing I want you to think about towards the end here is think about your absolute best self, the best version you could possibly imagine that you could be in 5 years. What do you think he's listening to? Do you think he's listening to music at all? The kind of guy who has maybe a loving family if you're that age, the kind of guy who is living the absolute dream in terms of a career and friends, doing exactly what you want to do. Do you think that version of yourself, which is you, is listening to some music where the artist is talking about sex and drugs for about 3/4 of it. Probably not. I'm also not saying that you should only listen to instrumental or classical music, but I am saying that music really affects your well-being. And I also want you to think about this. It's the last thing I want you to think about. I've said it a few times this video. If you were just feeling bad, feeling unwell, feeling sad, as we all sometimes do, and you think about, why am I feeling this way? You often can't place it. You don't really understand why. Sometimes, something bad happens, it's obvious, but most of the time when you're just feeling down, when you're feeling unmotivated, you don't know why. And I'm telling you that music is one of those things which, because it seems so, unreasonable to actually have an effect on you, it's one of those things that might really just be having an effect on you, your mental peace, and your energy levels. So again, I'm not here to scold you. I've said that a few times. I'm here to try and help you and to try and remind you. And honestly, making this video has reminded myself of what I'm listening to, what I'm putting into my mind. And I really hope that maybe, it makes you think about something. And if you come to the conclusion that you want to listen to whatever you've been listening to, or listen, whatever, that is completely up to you, but I'm just grateful that you stayed till this point in the video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again. I hope to be able to talk to you again. Leave a comment down below. We always respond as a general rule, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.